Starting in trading is really humbling. We lose 45% of the time.
What does that feel like to lose tens of millions of dollars in seconds?
The very first time it happened that way, that was rough.
Do you think you can get rich if you don't take risk? Jenny Just is a self-made billionaire, co-founder of the legendary investment company Peak 6 that has made money every single year for 28 years. If you want to figure out how to bet big on yourself and whether the next right decision for you is to go left or to go right, you're going to want to listen to this episode.
Time is massively important. It's definitely a marathon. It's not a sprint. When you have that great year, think about it over a 3-year time frame. Don't think about it as today's money.
What can poker tell us about reading the room in life?
You have to be thinking about the other cards at the table. Then you have to think about what they're thinking about your cards. If I'm sitting across from someone and I want something to happen, I want more money, I want a different position, I have to think about what they're thinking.
What's the most amount of money you've ever lost in a single day?
It's a lot.
So you're a self-made billionaire, right?
That's correct.
That's probably what you lead with when you come into conversations. You're like, Cody, really? First question? But I think it's really cool because one, billionaires are super rare, but to be self-made, then throw on you're a woman, not that many. And then you did it in finance and investing. But what's kind of cool, you didn't start out that way. And you've said a line I loved, which is, you said failure shaped you more than anything else. What does that mean?
Starting in trading is really humbling. We lose 45% of the time. So it's over and over and over. And that repetition, that compounds. I always talk about compound experience. Each one of those gets you a little smarter, a little braver, a little bit more nimble. I think I was really lucky to start in trading on a trading floor in person and sort of feel what it was like, right, to lose those dollars. But I did it when I was young, multiple times a minute. Yeah. So doing that allowed me then, as I grew, I put on my big boy pants and did a little bigger and a little bigger. People think of me as a risk taker because of where I came from, but I became one.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of people maybe don't know what trading is. And so really what this means is that you are either trading for your own book, your own wallet you could think of, or somebody else's, but you're on the line. Like every decision you are deciding, I'm going to put $1 and bet, quote unquote, on X to happen. And if X doesn't happen, I lose money.
That's right.
So like to put this in perspective for people, what's the most amount of money you've ever lost in a single day? Do you know?
It's a lot. Tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah. And
in seconds, right? That's not even, a whole day. It doesn't have to go by for that to happen.
Can we break it down, Cody? The 10 seconds was bad enough. Wow. What does that feel like to lose tens of millions of dollars in seconds?
When it first happened, the very first time it happened that way, that was rough, right? Was all that stuff leading up to this, a fantasy. So a lot of second guessing, but you get better from it, and you obviously don't want to do that again. But I literally just yesterday, right? So we've been doing Peak 6 for 28 years now, and there's always a situation in the market, right? It's why the smartest actually don't win. Long-term capital management is a great story for people to read about, and they were the smartest. And they didn't win. So being humble about when things are going well and acknowledging what was luck, what was skill, and then recognizing a situation where that same thing, it's going to happen again. What am I going to do then when it does? I just have to assume it's going to happen. I think that is so now how do I get comfortable? Because the first losses weren't that big, obviously.
Yeah.
But the more you put out, the more the chances for a big loss are. So
yeah. I mean, the first time, did you like when you lost a bunch of money, or you're like, I need to go to the bathroom, and then you just go get sick in the bathroom?
Yeah.
Or you just like, because I imagine like as you get older and better at it, those peaks and valleys, if you're going to stay in the game, if you can handle it and figure out mentally how to get through it, which I think by the end of this podcast, given everything I've read from you, we're going to help people get there, be able to manage the peaks and troughs. But I imagine in the beginning, the highs are high. You're like, bottle service at Tao on Jenny, I know what you traders did in finance.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But I imagine the lows are really low.
They are. Yeah. And it's really about recognizing you don't have to have the highest high because you don't want the lowest low. And that's really hard for traders. And, we've had 28 years, never had a losing year. Let me knock on something.
Wow.
So, and that's really unheard of in our business. But that's also, did we have the biggest year of anybody? Probably not. But methodically reinventing ourselves and thinking about how that next market opportunity, new advances in tech, new advance in people how we're approaching the problem differently, right? Each one of those, we don't just assume that we're going to, we kind of think in 3-year cycles roughly of the next. Jenny and Matt is my co-founder, could be, in the garage, especially today with AI. So they could be there. How do we probably have to, it's been 3-year cycles. We probably have to shrink that cycle down, but a lot is possible with very few people these days.
What does it take to not lose money for 28 years in investing? It's like you and Renaissance. And I think they even had 1 year that was down. What does that mean? Like for somebody who's never really thought about like a risk budget or like risk allocation, how could they conceptualize managing risk?
You have to assume that the worst possible scenario. And you can also assume the best because people are already thinking about that, right? So I assume you're already thinking about what the best outcome is. But what is the worst possible? And then what is the slightly less than the worst possible? Like there is a wide range of outcomes. I think people are quite binary in their thought process. And what if? And then using examples from the marketplace that have happened before. People don't want to think GameStop's going to happen again. And you turn around and then there's another one. So, right, even the smartest in the world at the time when that was happening were betting against that stock could actually go higher. It can.
Did you bet against it?
Do we bet against it? No. We get what we often do in those cases, we get out of the way.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out a good way to play it because we're active in 3,000 to 4,000 public company names in their options every single day. So we have really broad portfolio. So there's a lot of things and we like to be where the volume is for sure. So
it's a really good way to think about it because by binary, basically meaning everybody thinks either I'm going to lose everything or I'm going to win everything. Yeah. And they're really at the broad end of both spectrums.
That's right.
As opposed to thinking, well, what would it look like if we just continuously won a little bit over time?
Yeah.
Or simultaneously continuously lost a little bit
over time. Same thing. Yeah.
Interesting. What I think is really interesting about you is a lot of what you talk about is, I even hate to use the word mindset because it's like almost touchy-feely and you're the opposite of that. You're like very quant. But, your mission right now, I think, is to sort of what I would call break low-risk mindsets. Can you talk about why, for instance, so many people take little risk, don't take enough risk, and what you would tell them if they were listening to this?
First of all, it's very unique to the person. Like what taking risks to you means it's different than what taking to me. It's a very personal thing. And I think people have to be okay because they compare themselves. So if you self-assess where am I on this, like, give yourself a risk scale 1 to 10. And then what is the purpose? Right? Do I have a purpose for taking more or less risk? And I think for most people that are listening to you or coming and listening to me, they are yearning, right? There is a desire. As much as I look like I take a lot of risk, nobody would have called me a risk taker when I was younger. You can actually learn it, but you have to start. So what is a small risk for, if you're a young kid in school, it might be raising your hand in class, right? Okay. I got over that first hurdle. Now, how do I get over the second hurdle? How do I get over the third hurdle? But I have to make it a conscious exercise for myself, which is why when we talk about poker, I like poker so much because every hand is taking a risk, right? I mean, for a lot of people, just getting to the poker table is a risk. So, especially for women.
So you think young Jenny, she wasn't a risk taker?
I don't think so.
Was she tough?
She was tough.
Yeah.
She definitely was tough. I grew up with 4 brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot fazed me. You know, I went down to the trading floor and, you know, it's a sea of men. And the first day, a gentleman came up to me and said, "Don't worry, I'll protect you." A guy on our team. And I was like, "From what?" You know, I was looking around a sea of dudes. Yeah. But, yeah, so that, that was the good fortune, I think, that I had, that I didn't let the outside get in the way. I was always a high achiever in school, but I did what I was told. I didn't sort of go on my own and take risk per se.
Do you think that most people understand the risk level that they are? Like, is that just, it seems sort of nebulous in some ways. It's like a hard concept to wrap your hands around.
Yeah, we've been talking about building sort of a risk tool.
Like a framework?
Yeah, a framework, because just putting a stake in the ground somewhere, do most people understand? I think if they really were vulnerable with themselves, they do. And I think for people who call themselves risk taker, they also know there's another level. And by the way, risk doesn't have to mean jumping out of a plane. It doesn't have to be betting all your money, right? It just has to mean taking more risk than you are today. You know, I was always looking, you know, in my rear view mirror when we were building our company and when we were winning. I was like, when's the loss going to come, right? And so I didn't want to take that next risk. Hiring our 10th person, I was like, no way are we ever having more than 10 people. So like that was a really big risk to me. And so like I contextualize all the time what I do. Can I take more risks than I do today? Yes. I mean, when we've been just recently, right, in the last couple of years investing in AI, like how big and where and right. And it's, you know, it's another level for us. I have a funny story really quick. Yeah. It's when I love this because I said no to Jamie Dimon. So we had a plan A, and 28 years later, we've never done our plan A. We were trying to get a bank to be our partner to do over-the-counter equity derivatives. That's what we left to go do. That's what we did when we left O'Connor. And it was taking forever. And in the meantime, we started Plan B, which is a business that's been around for 28 years now. But it's not that we didn't want this other business to happen, but it was going on and on. We'd hired some people to work on it while we were focused over here. And Jamie Dimon was at First Chicago at the time. And so we got to the 11th hour with him. And it was dragging. So this is 1999. And right, we don't have our phones. Or I had a little calendar on my desk. And I circled the date. And I was like, if we don't have an answer by this date, we're out. And they just didn't have an answer yet, right? And we called. We said, we're out. So.
I bet Jamie doesn't get told no very many times.
No. Yeah. Well, for sure, less so today than then.
But that is a hack right there. This is totally unrelated kind of, but like I'm divorced and remarried happily. Mm-hmm. But my first marriage, like we just couldn't figure it out. Mm-hmm. And it was not good. And I put a date on the calendar. Yeah. Same thing. And I was like, we will either work through this and we will or if it doesn't come to the table in the way that we need to, this is the out date. Yeah. And I remember when the date came up, I was like, what am I going to do? Not keep my word to myself? Right. Like that's a pretty important word. Yeah. And I think when you do it, the first time you do something like that, it's definitely motivating and it's inspiring. You're like, all right, I did what I said. And because it's time, right? That's a ways out. You don't know how you're going to feel or think or anything about that. Obviously, you have the luxury of changing your mind if you want. But by sticking to it, definitely changed my trajectory. Well, you inspired me. Right now, actually, we do like, our members do like $300 million in small business transactions a year.
Nice.
And we have some banking relationships, but I want one deep banking relationship. And when I tell you, working with these SBA banks, what the piecemeal nonsense they want to do, where you can't actually see through to who bought, the business. And they're like, well, why don't you email us when they, close? I'm like, we have 100 million eyeballs a month.
Right.
We're doing more transactions in cumulative than some quarters you are.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think I need to put a calendar on the date to say, if we don't do it by this date, I'm going to buy a bank.
Right.
And then I'm going to have no partners.
Yep.
And it's another example of an industry that is so outdated for small business.
It is so hard.
That I'm like, fine, I could buy one.
Yeah.
And so, all right. Now, next time you talk to me, if I don't either have the partnership I want or have bought a bank, you have to yell at me.
There you go.
Which is annoying. I don't know if you were like this, but my mom, like when I was growing up, she would always say like, she was worried about risk, actually. Risk was bad. And I think if you were to ask her, she would still kind of think risk's a 4-letter word, just like the rest of them.
For sure.
And why would you do something that takes more risk? And, I think she's a woman. My family, she was a school teacher. She really wanted things that were quote unquote guaranteed.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, you think that there is maybe this one skill or even a game that can help women break out of that? You want to talk about what it is?
I've been a quiet person for 24 years. I was a quiet person until I learned the game of poker. And I didn't necessarily have to be out there for our companies. But I have been trying to help women accomplish more what they want to do, which for me, it was clearly taking risk around money was like the biggest inhibitor. And when I saw poker, it was the closest thing I've seen to the training I got as an options trader, right? Because people aren't just going to become options traders. First of all, there's not that many in the world, men or women. And I'm going to go study options trading is unrealistic, I think. Playing a card game, however, is not. And the irony of the whole thing is, our firm is filled with poker players. In the financial world, you see them all the time. And I just ignored the game because only the guys were playing, first of all. I thought it was a waste of time. And little did I know, there's a little secret. They've been doing it for literally hundreds of years. And so I'll just tell the backstory real quick. So my daughter was 14 at the time. So it was in 2019. Playing a tennis match, losing. Her dad was a college athlete, frustrated. She's losing to someone she looks like she should be able to beat. And comes home and sort of chirps, to me, because he doesn't want to her, and says, she may as well be hitting against a wall. She doesn't realize she's playing against someone who is thinking and strategizing. She needs to learn to play poker. And he wasn't really, he was more of a blackjack guy. And I just thought he was being ridiculous, and I walked away. And like 2 weeks later, I was like, should I teach my 14-year-old daughter to play poker? And then, of course, that annoyed me because I would never have said that. I have 3 sons as well. I've never said that about them. And by the way, they already knew how to play because they all just seemingly figure it out, And so I did an experiment, right? What does a good entrepreneur do? And 10 girls, 10 moms. And it's the only reason I'm sitting here, honestly. So the transformation in those girls from lesson 1, literally 4 1-hour lessons, to lesson 4 was like literally the skies opened. It was so extraordinary. Now that at the time was really all about confidence. That's what I saw. But as we proceed to move forward, actually was going right into COVID. I was like, well, we'll do more of this. We had like 3 states, 17 clubs, something like that. And this is all about being in person. We, months in, we're like, I guess it's not about being in person anymore. So we better figure this thing out. So we actually go to Peak 6 employees, a few thousand employees. Said, we want to teach your daughters and your sisters and your nieces. And the women were like, it's so good for them. Why aren't we learning? And I was like, great idea. So we start doing it on Zoom, of course. And Morningstar, large international firm, heard what we're doing, asked to do it. And today, now we've taught it over 300, I think it's like 370 companies, 60 countries. And through that process, I started to learn. And that's when I saw that same repetition, playing that hand, making that decision with imperfect information, playing people, right? Because we're trading, right? There's a customer on the other side. Even if I don't see them, there's somebody there. What are they doing? Why are they doing it, right? A thought process that I hadn't seen outside of trading was right there in this card game. And when you think about, right, how men espoused the game for so many years, but our presidents play. I just met a man the other day who would play with Obama in the White House when Michelle was on vacation, So it was
naturally.
Yeah. Yes. And I think the Trojan horse, honestly, for women to learn this game, play this game, build those skills. By the way, this isn't something that you are naturally, someone might be naturally good at it. There's zero reason why you cannot be good at poker. And then once you start to understand the core of it, how it translates, not just to business, but to life too, whether it's relationships, decisions that you have to make in life, right? You can see how that hand you just played looks like that negotiation you just did, how that hand you played looks like that meeting you were having. Like, where's the power, right? Is the person with all the chips? Certainly. But what if a couple people have the chips at the table? Now, where's the power? Well, where's the position that they're sitting at the table? Each layer is quite an extraordinary way of, unfolding stories in your life. And when you start talking to people about why they played a hand a certain way, there's so much to gain about how other people think and how they approach. My last bit is the most fascinating thing. We've been doing this because obviously we're teaching mostly women. We will teach men. We're teaching some of your men today, but most men already know how to play, and we're teaching people from scratch. But the surprise when they start playing the game, what's actually happening, and how quickly they can translate it to what they do at the office every single day.
Buying a business or launching your own venture can feel impossible if you're stuck figuring out the website, logo, email, marketing all at once. But here's the good news. GoDaddy Aero is here to help. So just a few prompts, it builds a professional website, a logo, an email, even social content, all tailored to your business. It's like having a whole launch team in your laptop. Instead of months of grinding, you can go from idea to launch-ready business in minutes. No more waiting, no more guessing, just a real online presence that you can grow with day one. Suddenly, the thing that was just a tiny idea in a notebook is online, polished, and ready to scale. So if you're ready to take your idea to life, head to GoDaddy.com/Codie Sanchez and try GoDaddy Aero today.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's got a cool factor.
Yes.
Too.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't hurt the swag at all.
Yeah. No, it does not hurt that. And I always thought about it as gambling.
Yeah.
And I don't like gambling because I don't like risk.
Right.
So I'm like, I'll bet on myself all day, which, if you think about it, is another type of gamble. But it wasn't until I first started talking to you that I thought, this is interesting. Because you and I talked last time about, the thing that keeps me up at night. Because I know there are people listening right now, and we could give them every tool and every tactic and every how-to. But if they don't have the right mindset, if they're not willing to actually take action, which is a risk, and increase their risk tolerance, because my belief is by and large, it's harder to get rich if you don't take some risks.
Yep.
It just seems harder. And that part, I've never had a really good solution for how we could teach them that. Because it's all the touchy-feely stuff, right? Like manifest and fluffy and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I'm not so good at that. And so, but then I read this thing the other day that I want your take on. The quote was, "Making money isn't hard. Unlearning everything you know about it is. Money goes to people who treat life like strategy, not survival. This isn't about luck. It's about leverage, understanding the rules, then bending them in your favor." Do you think that's true?
I think there's a lot of truth to that.
I think there are a lot of things we're told about money that may or may not be true. And I'd be curious your take, if I could rapid fire some like money sayings to you, and you could tell me, what do you think about that? True, false, and what are your thoughts? Okay. Here's the first one. You should just save and skip the coffee.
I think you got to have your coffee But, if you're not saving somewhere, we're really good at defense as well as offense. So, and I think you have to have members of your team on both sides. And, but if you're not enjoying yourself along the way, none of it's worth it.
Yeah. What about if you deserve it, you'll get it?
That's a little tougher for me, I would say. An above average, I'm talent, right? But, and we've done a lot of experiments at Peak Six on types of people we've hired. And maybe deserve is the same as the hard worker. I'm not sure. I don't hear it that way, but the hardest working people are the people that have succeeded on our team, and people stay because they know they're rewarded for working their butt off. And the version of them that comes, right? It's not the most obvious person. I think Peak Six has done a really good job of bringing, a wide range, including a lot of females, more than anybody else in the market in terms of capital allocators. People are actually making decisions around money. Yep. We kill them. And, honestly, I think one of the reasons why we succeeded is because I brought a different viewpoint. You have to remember, this is 1997. Like, for my co-founder to choose a female, that wildly unheard of. Well, there's very few to pick from to begin with. Did I deserve it? Right? I worked my ass off.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I was watching a video the other day and it was like, I just want you to keep repeating, like, I will be rich. I deserve to be rich. So I was like, we're going to need to add a few steps to this process because I don't think it's not going to get you there.
Who can say it the most?
Yeah, I was like, a lot of conviction, the young woman had. But then I saw it had 1.5 million views. Mm-hmm. And I sat there thinking, oh man, sometimes we've got to ask ourselves, are the people that we're listening to the ones who have actually done the thing that we're trying to get?
Right.
That's why I think it's interesting when people who have made a lot of money, had a lot of success, are willing to talk about it. Mm-hmm. It's not that common.
Right.
Like, does it still feel weird for you to talk about, like, when people call you a billionaire, are you like, it feels weird.
Awkward.
Yeah, it feels awkward.
It's weird. But I also know, like, to represent, like, it's important.
Totally.
So...
yeah. You know what's crazy? We've had 3 female billionaires in here in the last week.
Wow.
Is that crazy? Because there's not very many. So then I was like, what's our percentage? We got a high swing ratio
here.
That's
pretty good.
I was like, this is pretty good. What do you think about be patient? Wealth comes with time.
For sure. Time is massively important. It's definitely a marathon. It's not a sprint. I do think there are, moments that are not exactly that, right? Unexpected days, we make a lot more money than we should have. We tell our traders too, when you have that great year, think about it over a 3-year time frame. Don't think about it as today's money, right? We don't want, because traders can be like athletes in many ways, way too much money at too young of an age. And we're really proud that people tend to stay a really long time with us, and being a role model who's conservative around spending, right? Yeah. We're really also super conscientious there, maybe too much so. We've definitely been criticized for that in the past. Like, we're watching the pennies too closely. I'm just like, well, if you don't want me to watch your pennies, I won't, but I'm going to watch mine. So...
What you said you do a lot of experiments at Peak Six. Mm-hmm. What are some experiments you do with your employees or to determine strategies? Because it does seem like you're a very systems-oriented thinker.
Yeah, we are. Well, we like to know what is working. It's really hard to discern, what actually it is. I'll give you this. This is a fun example. So my co-founder grew up playing hockey. 6 years in, we got married, as an FYI. So I know him very well. And, but always interested in the NHL. And so when the opportunity was there to potentially, be part of a team, we were looking at it. At the time, so let's call it, early 2000s, there were like 6 guys talking about hockey statistics on the internet, And he was one of them. But they're all really bright. And we said, well, what if we took all of those people and we just brought them in as a class? And is there something about their approach, the way they think, that might make a different type of options trader? We did that with poker players many years ago. Before I knew poker, we'd done that with taking the smartest people that would possibly come to us. That was a complete fail, by the way. But anyway, so back to our hockey people. So they came on and they were okay. They weren't great traders, but they were there working on, hockey analytics. So if indeed we ever had a team or not. Anyway, they ended up leaving, going to hockey teams. And we were talking about this the other day, which is why I was thinking about it. I think the last 12 Stanley Cups, 5 were either 1, I think 4, and then 1 was second place. Whatever, runner up, whatever you call them, loser. But we're ex-Peak 6 data people.
Wow.
Well, they're data people for the hockey teams, but yeah, ex-Peak 6 employees.
So you're like, what's that movie with the baseball guy?
Moneyball.
Yeah, you're like the Moneyball of NHL.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Matt loves. So
should you have taken a little piece of those teams?
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, the Panthers is one of them. But we ended up being part of the Minnesota Wild for a little while.
Interesting. That's crazy.
Then not anymore, but.
So then is it true that the smartest people that you've hired for traders do not make the most money?
We train people have no knowledge coming in. So you don't have to know. You don't have to have a finance background, an econ background. You could have a history background. Matt has an English major. So I was an English major. I was a business major. So we're looking for people at the end of the day who work really hard, who are curious. And obviously they have to be above average intelligence, like just to get into the math side of options trading.
As measured by IQ? Do you give people IQ tests?
We don't give them IQ tests, but there are lots of interesting, mathematical ways to solve problems. Yeah. Google, when they first started all those creative ways of testing people, we like to do that too.
Do you have like a question you ask them every time? If I want to come work for Ginny, do I got to?
No, we don't. No. Because I obviously don't interview the young kids anymore, but we keep it fresh because there's so much sharing and stuff that happens now. But
otherwise they'll cheat.
But there's a lot of culture that's involved in our hiring too. We're different than a bunch of the other trading firms on who we bring in and who we don't bring in. But it is, they love it when they come. Like that is one of the things we're most proud of. Though the other interesting thing is if they leave, we haven't had any ex-Peak 6 people really, create a firm like we created a firm.
Interesting.
Though that is also true of many. You see that actually some of the other financial firms, you'll find some, but not so much. It doesn't happen that often, right? There's not that many option trading firms, for example. So, but the Susquehanna, who was O'Connor, where we were at, competitor forever, is still there.
Yeah.
Right? So,
well, I met a bunch of those guys at AEI. I think I was telling you last time, and I didn't. To be fair, I didn't really understand.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in finance, I was in private equity and asset management, but like index funds, commingled funds, that sort of thing. Yeah. And I always thought about trading. Maybe I did that in the beginning, but it was really like arbitrage trading. Mm-hmm. It was like for State Street, just making a market.
Right.
And then I met those guys and I was like, and I think I could say this about them and they would be fine with it. I was like, you guys are weird. Like this is a different crew.
Yeah, it's a whole different animal for sure.
Yeah, they're like physicists and rocket scientists that now trade online. So half of what you're looking for are these people who basically they just see the world slightly different. There's some like sort of asymmetric little spin they have.
There is.
That everybody else doesn't have.
Because it's really a commodity at the end of the day. But, being in equities, this is what I always say, especially for females, like companies are about people's stories, right? Just like here, it's about your story. And following people is really interesting. following the AI story is really about the people who are doing it. And so I think it's a great place in the equity world for women to get their feet dirty, because they draw out that, and they have real nuances about what they can understand or not understand. Again, because I see myself, like, why was I able to? I was trained by someone who was really good at what they did, and that's what we do for our people. So if you're interested in the markets at all, like, going on the equity side is a really interesting place to start.
So is the framework for being able to take more risk and thus potentially have more reward, it sounds like, and tell me if this is wrong, so something like you have to do it more. This is your compounding experience.
Yep.
Then you have to do it, I don't want to say the correct way, but with some sort of mentorship or guidance. Just any sort of risk taking, probably not great. It has to be some sort of structured risk taking.
I think it helps. It helps move the ball systematically forward.
Yeah.
I don't think it has to be, but I do think that helps for sure.
And then what's the next step? If it's take a lot of risks, structure the risks, and then take bigger risks?
I think the next step is, again, there's this idea of risk management that I'm doing. How am I evaluating my doing? And you need time to go by. We don't know if a trader is going to be great at their job or not for a while. Just like you can go and be a beginner poker player and be a pro. You can. That happens, And so you need enough time to go by, and then some assessment of that data to start to tell a story. It's like playing a hand versus playing, an entire game of poker. That's where the hands add up to the game. And hopefully, the game, that your table, then you're moving. It's like more like a tournament, right? Then I'm moving on to the next table, and I'm moving on to the next table. So along the way is, and maybe it's, the context switching happens so much as you're taking risk. You open yourself, like your aperture opens up so much that your regrouping becomes more important, not less important. Like, as we take more risk in AI, I make sure we step back and say, okay, is that really what we meant to do? Because all of a sudden we're in so deep. It's the same thing. Like, I'm on the turn. I'm on that fourth card that comes out on the table, and I've got a lot of money in this thing. The one thing as a trader you do, you go home at night, you mark to market everything. If I had to start tomorrow, would I do exactly what I'm doing today? And if I didn't, and if I shouldn't, and I should pivot, I got to get out. I got to get out of that hand in some way. And some things you can't get out of, obviously. It's one thing to fold the poker hands, and another thing to get out of a business or a business line or something along those lines. But the reassessment, the loop, right? You don't have to go all the way back to the beginning. Once, you're on 10 times of doing this, you're going back to 5, and you're reassessing the 5 to 10 because you got better. You went to a different level, 1 to 5, then you went to 5 to 10, right? And you're going to come back and reassess, I think there's no stopping learning. I think people think once you get to a certain dollar amount or something, like, ooh, you know it, you know the answer. Oh no, there's a lot more to come, right? I remember, Matt used to say, so what's your number, right?
Yeah, totally.
And we all would say it to each other in some form. Well, it was $10 million, right? Then it was $100 million. Wait, so then what, right? It's the same idea. How do you, life moves, right? And if you have figured out a way, but it's not a given. I mean, we've had some serious investments that have been really big valuations that have gone to zero. Like, we're talking 13 billion, a zero. Oof. So that those are real. You're watching some of these AI stocks move around. Like, people are getting hurt, and a lot of people are making a lot of money, right? If you're in crypto. So every step opens you up, I think, differently. But I also think what I love about some of the people who, are following you, is that I know where I want to go. and I don't need to go to that next. I think I have a little bit of an entrepreneur's, disease.
You think so? After like 15 turnarounds, I was looking at all the companies you've like taken and grown.
Yeah, it's not. I have to really consciously tell myself to no, because it's interesting to me, and people who are entrepreneurs are interesting to me. Yeah. And I want to see them. I want them to feel what I got to feel. Even the bad moments, right? They really have to be ready. I think that's the me in 1997 versus someone starting today. It's you're not sharing your fails. You're living your fails. Like I just keep my fails on my desk. Just the list.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Like a piece of paper with all the things you lost money on?
Yeah.
Wild. How is it? 1 page, 2 page?
Oh, it's long. So it's not all the trading because there's so many trades, right? But it's the company fails, right?
Wow. That's amazing. That reminds me of like Astro Teller from Google X. He used to put on his wall in his office his failure resume.
Yeah.
That's fascinating because my other friend who's a hedge fund manager, he does the same thing. In his bathroom, he has a picture, like really big one, and on it are all the companies that failed that he invested in. And like some of the emails of people telling him like, you shouldn't do this. And then he did it anyway.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that like an inoculation to remind yourself you're not superhuman?
Time heals things, and the pain and suffering of some of those. I don't want to make that same mistake just because I can. Why should I lose $5 million or $50 million on something if I truly know better? When you have quantity, right? And I think I heard you say recently, why have 3 businesses that are okay? We can have one really good one. I totally agree with that. It's distracting. It's a heavy burden. But some people are just built for that. So the fun and the drive and the curiosity, can I, right? So we've created two multi-billion dollar businesses. Do I want to create a third? Absolutely. Wish I didn't. I really do though. I want to prove it. Why? So who? Well, it's really to me, and nobody knows. Nobody really knows anything because we're a private company. So, but, it was one whisper, one moment in time because we were supposed to take one of our companies public. And then we didn't. It was sort of in the SPAC craze. So that's one company gets leaked and that's how that whole story goes. But it turns out that story is great so that I can get more women playing poker, right? So that's what drives me to be in public at all and talk. But it's an itch that you want to scratch, and you have to be super conscientious. I don't care if you have a big business or a small business, but that desire, that's what the failure list.
By the way, I have a live event. I only do one a year. It's huge. How big? Really big. In Austin, Texas, just for people who want to make more money, buy businesses, build businesses. It's called Main Street Over Wall Street. So if you liked this episode, you're probably going to want to be there. There's only a couple hundred spots left. So click below. I want to shake your hand in person in Austin, Texas, or go to msows.com. MSOWS. We'll see you there. Hey, it's your friend Cody. By the way, guys, I just realized that a bunch of you are not subscribed, which is crazy because I feel like we hang out every week and we talk about how to make your life better, how to make your bank account bigger. And I want to do more of that. So one, thank you for being here. Like sometimes I'm like, pinch me moment, and also share this with a friend, subscribe. The only way we grow is when you share it. And we only show up on your feed when you subscribe. So I promise that if you do that, I will continue to make this podcast a way for you to steal all my rich and successful friends so that your life can be even better every single day. Do you think you can teach people to love the game like that? Like to become obsessed with just playing, whether the game's business or poker or life? And if so, how do you teach yourself to love hard things in business?
So I think there has to be some inherent desire that starts it, Can you put fuel on the fire? Absolutely. I think part of the way to do that is be surrounded by people who are amazing, right? Amazing in whatever way. So like we yearn for, in the arts, right? When we, fashion, whatever it is, like somebody, Matt's some energy company in the middle of Utah, in the middle of nowhere the other day, just because we're so curious. And so I think that curiosity builds, sort of the awe of being a human, what other humans are capable of doing. And we so enjoy watching that. People enjoy, hearing financial stuff from us, especially in Austin, which has been really funny. They're like, we don't know you people down here.
Very much so.
So that's been fun since we moved to Austin.
We don't know you people. Now they will.
Yeah, now they will. But yeah, that I think when we are looking, I know you talk about green and red flags. We are looking for someone who doesn't have all the answers. We are looking for someone who's curious and wants to figure them out. Because I think it's inherently drawing ideas. We do this a lot. Like our very first piece of technology was because I went into a Wendy's, and which is funny. And whenever I say that, I'm like, why was I eating at Wendy's? But anyway.
You look like you frequent the place.
Right, exactly. But literally there was someone there taking the order, and then there was, it used to be that big boulder of a screen was in the corner, and maybe you don't remember that, but I do. And someone was doing the fries, and, we used to laugh, you're the fry guy, But that was our tech we built. And because how were we going to, as a couple people in a room, going to manage, because you have to be broad enough in your trading, right? It's not like we're Goldman Sachs and we have flow, right? We're just two people in a room. So we have to get a broad enough portfolio for this thing to make sense. But eventually it was Walgreens, it was Walmart. Like we created an inventory management system for options trading. And nobody had talked about that before. We literally had off-the-shelf models where everybody was like, the smartest people were creating the best models themselves. Whereas we just bought. So we just approach the problem differently. How do you do that? I think by being curious about the world, being curious about learning new things and abstract or angular to what you normally do.
What companies have you invested in or built or turned around that you're really proud of, but you don't talk about a lot? Because you have a lot of them. Like, are there a couple that you're like, you know what, we did this thing and nobody even knows?
I think there's a lot of pride in turning anything that's like hemorrhaging into not hemorrhaging. Like there's a lot of pride just in that. There's a lot of pride in helping the people who put their heart and soul into it to not feel like they caused a calamity and were really part of something that worked. It just needed some small tweaks. I think there probably isn't there. I think there's probably more that I'm pretty tough. I'm not the one to pat on the back very often. I think there's a lot more that I think we could have done a lot more for. Ultimately, there are people who are behind these things, right? That I wanted some other outcome, right? Yeah. There's more fails than there are successes. But even ideas we had that we, thought could be interesting. We were either cocky or stupid, or, we just didn't really understand it so much. We've entered the insurtech space, which is fascinating. I didn't think anything was older than sort of like the way the financial world, the meat and the pipes of the financial system work. Oh no, yeah, just go into the insurance side of it, and it's a whole nother. But that doesn't mean people want to change.
Yeah.
And so those are the things where I just the weight of the world on like, I know we can. Does anybody care? Right? And I'm trying to bring a team along to care with us and be different, and approach solving the world differently. But, They're big industries. That's what I think also why I get the entrepreneurial itch, because there are, these smaller businesses that you can continue to do that give amazing opportunity for a small team of people that you don't have to take on that massive world. Unfortunately, we're sort of in that space. So, but yeah, I think
you're big now. So
yeah,
you can't get the same thing out of like $1 million laundromat.
No.
I don't know. Maybe
you never know. You never know where it might show up. It's funny though, because one of my partners, he talks a lot about those types of businesses, and he and I would always talk about them, and so I'm fascinated by it. I think there's an incredible amount of opportunity, in sort of cycles. I think we're in a really good one right now with AI to help you sort of leverage it faster, like unique opportunities that come along. And what does that mean? Whether it's either just helping you on the marketing side, or it's helping you on the research side, or just helping you execute the bones of getting a company off the ground, which is always more burdensome than people think it is. Yeah. But you have all those, the tools in your toolkit just got fucking awesome.
That's amazing, because I think a lot of people are really scared about AI right now. They're like not as optimistic. Maybe the builders, people who really understand tech, are like, oh my God, every day I almost can't keep up with the new things. But what would you say to somebody who right now is like, I'm super scared of AI. I actually think it's going to take over and make me irrelevant.
Yeah. Wildly important that you get your hands dirty. Right. So, for Poker Power, we're building tools all the time for our app, for marketing reasons, et cetera. I'm like, I'm going to get in there and build the tool myself. Right. So
what are you using? What are we coding with?
Well, all Claude code.
Okay.
But
you ever use Replit too?
I have not, but I've heard of it.
Yeah,
but I think it's really important. Like, who cares that it doesn't go anywhere? It helps in so many different ways, from how to think about solving the problem to how to get a thought into the world in some form or fashion, to, at a minimum, having communication with somebody else or technologist who knows. So I think getting your hands dirty.
And you can't mess it up.
You can't mess it up.
Which is super cool.
Yeah. And by the way, everybody else is getting their hands dirty now too. They're not experts. Yes, there's some technologists. We're not trying to compete with those people, right? There's 98% of the world who's just like you.
So we talked a little bit about poker, but if business is a poker game, what are the deadliest tells in entrepreneurship? What do we have to watch out for that we are signaling to other people as entrepreneurs?
I think entrepreneurs, that their biggest tell is their overexcitement about the possibility. And so they have a great hand. I'm just not playing, because I don't believe. So, or I might play strongly against them, meaning I might exit. So, and we see that a lot, because we do see a lot of newbies that do come in. We're happy to think and listen and hopefully mentor a little bit, but nothing can go wrong. And it's like, I don't know, that flush might come out and all you have is two pairs. So, and they're just not cognizant. Yeah. Just a little naivete, I could say.
How do you flip that around? So if you are really excited, what do you need to do to temper that? Is it having plans A, B, and C? Is it being honest about the risks? How would we get Jenny on board? If I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur, I want to do something with Jenny. I want to show her how great I am, but also show her what a smart thinker I am.
Yeah. There's a bunch of things. We always say there's like sort of not a formula. It's more like a picture. I think that they have to be aggressive on the offensive opportunity. They do. But if they can't address anything defensively, and or they cannot, they have not shown where they have failed in the past, or acknowledgement of failure in some form or fashion, whether it's in this product or somewhere else, I think those become definite red flags for us. I want to know, like, you're going to conquer the world, but I also want to know how you're going to methodically get from A to B to C. So
I think a lot of times it's really important as an entrepreneur to understand what's happening in the room around you. Like context is super important, not only in, running a business, but let's just say there's somebody listening and they want to get promoted, or they want to do better in their job, or they want somebody to take them more seriously. What can poker tell us about reading the room in life? What cues?
Yeah, so this one I love only because it's so relevant. The context, right? We talk about levels of thinking. So if you're just thinking about your cards, you might get lucky. You have to be thinking about the other cards at the table. Then you have to think about what they're thinking about your cards, right? So if I'm sitting across from someone and I want something to happen, I want more money, I want a different position, I want a different challenge, I want something, I have to think about what they're thinking. And I have to think about what they're thinking about, if it's my boss, the rest of my team, I have to think about what they're thinking about, what they owe to their boss, right? I have to literally set the table in full color as opposed to black and white. And that's where we get messed up. It's like, I would love to give you more money, but did you hear? Were you at that meeting over there? It's probably not a good time. It's just, there's some things that are wildly simple and people are just so adamant. They're like, they've been so frustrated and they come in and they just want A, B, and C and because they're not addressing the context. That's why when you sit at a poker table and you start to learn, right? And now you're like, oh, I'm going to play with my family. Oh, I'm going to play with my friends. Oh, I'm going to play with strangers. Like, all of a sudden you go, oh, that's why this is like the office. That's why it's like that meeting. That's why it's like that conversation. Because I don't know everything about the people I work with. And one fascinating thing we've done with our management teams is have them play poker together. It's amazing what our managers learn about their teams by playing poker with them, and vice versa. But, obviously I hear more from the senior managers. But
like, would an example be like, Mary always folds really early or doesn't put a lot of chips on tail?
Absolutely.
She doesn't take a lot of risk.
Yeah, absolutely. No question. And then now it's a conversation. Yeah. It's a conversation with Mary. Like, I noticed this. Like, you want to do it in a way so that Mary still keeps coming back to the table, right? Because you want her there. But you want her to recognize, so what do you see? How do you approach Mary? And, what did you do on that hand? Why? What if? One thing you can probably work on, right? And all of a sudden she starts doing it, because that is way uncomfortable for Mary to do 3 times the big blind when she goes in. She just wants to tippy-toe in. So what message are you sending? And they start to learn. This is where the self-assessment starts to come in and go, oh, wow, I didn't realize.
So to wrap up, if there is, let's say there's a woman listening out there right now, and she knows, like you said, her gut, she knows that she's not taking the right level of risk that she wants to in her life. She is a little scared. She's not sure what to do next. And, she might not have even understood all the things that we talked about today. Mm-hmm. Like, what would you tell her? Hey, if you want to level up your life next, and if you want to change your mindset about risk and your capability, what advice would you give her?
For me right now, because I've seen the impact with so many women, hundreds of thousands, what the emails I get, the LinkedIn stuff we do, the DMs, learn poker. And I also say, like, if I could have learned poker when I was younger, I think I would have saved 10 years out of mistakes in my career.
You would have had your $3 billion company.
That's right. I'm behind.
Real slacker. Jenny, this was such a pleasure. I love your mission. We're going to put in the show notes the link to your website, which I think is, I loved the risk question at the bottom of the website too. It made me think about what my risk was for today too. And then also about Peak 6, and then also, most importantly, Poker Power, where they can go and learn more about how to play poker. Now, I think you were working on an app last time I talked to you. Is that out now?
Yeah, the app is out. Poker Power Play. Okay. That exists. So we teach people in person. We teach them virtually. And, we're doing it every day. We have 20 some odd teachers across the U.S. who are traveling or being online to help move the ball forward for anybody who's interested.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Do you think you're just competing, creating a bunch of competitors now because you're going to get all these women now? who
That's so
understand
funny
risk?
you said it. So my co-founder, Matt, he said exactly that. You literally like 1 hour ago. And he's like, that would be a pure joy for us to be able to do that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think most people don't understand that, like, at your level of the game, I imagine, yeah, you want to keep winning, you want to keep building, but it's also something bigger.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you going to do? Take all the jets to the grave? No, I got to leave some behind. Jenny,
That's right.
thank you so much for
Thank you
being
so
here.
much.
Hi, and welcome back to the Big Deal podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez. If you want to be respected for your words to carry weight, then this episode is for you. I'm breaking down the communication techniques the top 1% use to get people leaning in, not tuning out. By the end, you'll know how to stop sounding like everyone else and start speaking like the leader people want to follow. So today, I want you to steal my confidence and respect. First, speak in headlines. Start with the point, not the preamble. I obsess on my first sentence. Why? Executives don't waste time on throat clearing or setting up a big runway before they get to the takeoff. By giving the headline first, you frame the conversation and make people lean in instead of tune out. This is also how you never have somebody repeat your idea to a group of people and be able to take credit for it again, right? When you speak decisively and you say something in front of a group, it would be ridiculous for somebody else to reframe your ideas and take them as your own. This is called decisive speech. Here's what that means. Clear, direct statements, limited hedging, and using few qualifiers or apologies. That's really signaling I am competent. Let's say you want to talk to someone for a few minutes. You're trying to get a few seconds with them, a boss, a coworker. I brought this up last week, and what I think we should do instead is probably talk about this a little bit more, or we could table it and talk about it later. Can I steal a few minutes? Is now a good time? Hey, can we talk about that? A good time for what? Why? Why do you need to steal my minutes? Where are they going? What you don't realize, most people sound like that. You instead will sound something like this. I have a problem that is leading to missed revenue. Can we discuss no longer than 5 minutes? Or I found a problem. I have a solution. I need 30 seconds to get an okay for it. The formula is what's wrong? Why does the other person care? How long will you bother them? The real issue here is marketing. It's not moving fast enough. We need to replace these 2 hires. The budget is too low. If we do these 3 things, work in 24-hour cycles, spend 1 hour a day recruiting, increase the budget, we will win. That is how you get people to listen to you. Warmth and competence. It's not how smart, rich, or pretty you are. Respect is about how fast you can signal, I'm a friend, which is trust and warmth. And you can rely on me, competence. The faster you can signal those 2 things, the more people like you and respect you. I learned this from the #1 behavioral psychologist I know, Vanessa Van Edwards. There are warmth cues. That means like smiling, nodding, for instance. A fun one is the slow triple nod, which is like this. The other person speaks 67% longer. That's because it is a nonverbal way to say, I hear you, I see you, tell me more. If instead you go, three fast shakes like that, what is that signaling? Okay, move it along, I'm ready to go. Let's keep talking here about something else. You do 3 little nods, a pause, and that signals, hey, I'm warm. I want you to keep listening. Another warmth cue is a head tilt. So you could say, I have some news. Straight shoulders, no movement, I have some news. That is a competent way to do it, but not warmth. A warmth cue would be like, I have some news. What are the 2 things that change? Head tilt and a lift of the shoulders. Now, more competence cues for those of you who are listening, which is probably the most important thing you can do, is confident posture. So that's standing tall, shoulders back, occupying space, shows certainty, credibility. Not hands below the table, hands in lap, hands hidden. Instead, hands on the table or in the microphone, showing straight up and shoulders back. Another way to show competence, steepling of the fingers. I'm listening. I'm thinking about that. What do we think we could do there? It's not like this, though. That looks creepy. This is a classic gesture. What it basically means is, hey, I'm self-assured. Next, cut words, add weight. You want to use fewer words, but make them sharper. We'll double revenue in 12 months. Okay, that is better than we have a plan to increase revenue significantly over the next year. Like, what's significantly? When next year? We want numbers, data, and credentials. So when we mention certifications, awards, supporting ideas with numbers, it reinforces our expertise. So we don't have to be better or smarter. The numbers do that for us. Data plus brevity signals confidence, and it makes every word carry weight, which commands attention to us. So if I was a boss and I said, tell me what you're going to do about this problem. A bad example would be something like, Well, I think maybe what we should do next is try, new hiring processes, or maybe we could talk to, so-and-so about that person that they knew last week. I'm not really sure. Can I get back to you? Bad answer. A good answer is pause. My gut reaction, which allows you to back out of it later if you find a better reaction. My gut reaction is, first step, we go and we talk to this person. Second step, we write down the findings. Third step, we come back together in 24 hours for an assessment because I don't want to make too quick of a decision. What do you think? Great. You've basically non-committed just as much as the other person has, but you sound like you have authority, even while you're saying, I don't know, I got to talk to a couple of people. It'll probably take me a day or two, right? Instead, we're pausing, we're framing, and we're saying we're going to regroup at a date, time, and checking for understanding. Speak like you want to be heard. This falls into 3 categories. I call it the GET: gestures, eyes, tone. So you get heard. So let's talk about gestures first. Gestures need to be precise. Using clear, purposeful hand gestures like finger steepling indicates deep thinking and self-assurance. So we want to really use our hands in an intelligent way. Authoritative vocal tone, speaking with a lower pitch, projecting the voice, avoiding filter words like, like, signals competence and confidence. Narrowing your eyes briefly signals, I'm thinking about this. I'm really focusing on what you're saying. I've got active engagement and analysis. A bad example of a tone, especially for women, sounds like this. Hi, my name is Cody. I'm really excited to work here today. I have worked in marketing for the past 10 years. What am I doing there? Well, I'm getting an uptick at the end of each sentence. Very normal for women to do. Instead, what would I want to do? Hi, my name is Cody. I've been working in marketing for the past 10 years. I'm really excited about what we're going to do here next. I can still smile, I can still nod, but my tone is flat and a little bit lower than normal. If you hear me talk every single day, it probably sounds like, hey, what's going on? Hey guys, how are you? Like, God, I'm so excited to see you. This podcast is going to be so great. That's what I normally sound like. When I'm trying to be competent, I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be 1 octave lower and I'm going to be a little bit flatter. When I'm talking to somebody, I'm not trying to be competent. My eyes are big. They're like, I'm curious. I want to know more about that. This face does not make you feel like I'm competent. This face does. So I am going to really focus in. I'm almost going to picture a pinprick of my attention going to that other person. It's signaling I'm listening, but you're going to have to prove to me what you're talking about. Next, master the pause. What to do. After delivering a key point, stop talking. This is where we let the silence work. Why? Pauses, they create gravity. They make your words echo longer and show you're comfortable owning the room without filling space. Let's try. Let's say you have something really hard to say to a group, and you need to say something like, we're not talking about the right things. I might say something like, I think we all know we're not talking about what we need to. Pause. Look around the room. Get in people's eyes. At this point, most people keep talking because they're worried that somebody is going to jump in. You don't have enough competence or authority for people to wait for you to pause dramatically. So how do you fake that authority if you don't have it? You go like this. I think we all know we are not talking about the right thing. Put up a finger. This is basically telling them non-verbally to wait. And if you see somebody jump in, you just push the finger out a little bit more intensely. This allows you to hold the frame. If somebody starts to speak, you shake it a little bit more formally. When I do this in my head, I like the count to 5 as an example. So I think we all know that we're not talking about what we need to. 1, 2, look around the room. 3, 4, 5. Uncomfortable. Then I give an example, then I release the finger and I keep going. Try this in your next meeting. It will blow you away by how much more people will actually listen to what you have to say. Next, tell stories, not stats. Use a narrative. We almost lost that company because of one bad hire. Is much better than, well, turnover rose by 12% last year. Why? Humans follow stories, not spreadsheets. Stories are sticky. Numbers slide off. CEOs weave both, but stories always lead. Historically, we call this passing through parable. At my companies, I have a saying, which is, show me, don't tell me, which means that I want to hear the story, I want to see the data, and I want it backed by numbers. When you have those three, we can get to solutions. But I don't just want you to talk about it. I want you to show me. Let's say you're trying to get a friend to listen to you. You've talked to this person a million times about something that they should do differently in their life, and they have never listened to you to date. I would put a few of these into effect. Let me tell you what a bad example sounds like. Well, you've dated this guy a few times. Do you really think it's going to go well if you keep dating him? Don't you think we've kind of learned our lesson here? Do we want to really date him again? What are we doing? Right? That's questions. You're not holding the frame. You're not pausing. What would a good example look like? Mary, I remember about 6 months ago, you called me in the middle of the night crying. You were despondent. I could barely understand what you were saying. You really couldn't speak because you were crying so hard. I thought maybe somebody had died, but that was the night that you called and told me that he cheated on you and that you would never speak to that man again. And now here we are, 6 months later, when the tears are dried and you're going back to him. Do you feel the difference between the two? One is yeah, well, you've already done this again. Are we going back? Whatever. The second, you will remember. So take a moment and become a storyteller. Over the past 90 days, we've grown by over 60,000 subscribers. Yay, which is crazy. And still, less than half of our viewers are subscribed. So if you could double check your subscribe below, that would be incredibly helpful for the show. You truly are a big deal to me. Let's jump back in. Next, use the 3-point rule. So what to do? Frame everything in threes. This one's super easy and super powerful, so use it wisely. If I wanted to get somebody to follow my framework on something, I might say, here's the opportunity, the risk, and the next step. I don't even have to say 1, 2, 3. I could just show it with my fingers. But I know that it will frame my brain a specific sequence that other people can remember. Why? The brain loves patterns. And we like patterns of 3. The Father, Son, the Holy Ghost. It feels complete, memorable, and persuasive without overwhelming people. Really easy to remember 3, hard to remember 4, very difficult to remember 5. And if you probably haven't noticed, I've been doing that a lot in this video. Anytime you can insert rules of 3 and what I call named and framed segments, your speech will be better. So let's say, for instance, somebody is doing something really stupid, and you want to tell them, wow, that's so stupid. And there are all these underlying reasons why that's so stupid, and we should never do that. Instead, you might say, let's get to first principles on this. Let's get to foundational principles on what we're talking about here. You're basically saying, can we take a step back to really see what's going on? Let's get to second and third order effects, which is a fancy way of saying, what are the repercussions of the actions? If we do that, what's going to happen next? I believe that what's happening right now is a lack of urgency bias. What you're really saying is, I think you guys are slow, really slow. But because we frame it in this fancier way, it's harder to push back on. Next, command the frame. Define the lens others see the conversation through. Example, somebody says something to you and they're like, we shouldn't spend that money. I don't want to. Instead of saying, no, we should spend that money. No, I disagree with you. You say, this isn't about money. It's about survival. This isn't about cost. It's about happiness. This isn't about money. It's about our family. What are you doing? Well, whoever controls the frame controls the debate. In communication, this means not letting somebody else take your frame. You never want to respond with that, not right. No, we're not going to do it that way. I didn't say that. Instead, you would say, that's a separate issue, Matt. Let's focus on the core problem. What you're basically saying is, I don't want to talk about that. I want to focus on this other issue. But you're doing it without ever having to debate and get into the, no, I disagree with you, which is really a childish way to try to communicate. The last part of this that's really important is the way you communicate when we are frame breaking. How people will not allow you to steal their frame is when you fake it. So be really careful about saying, let's focus on the core problem, Matt. It's not really that. This little side smirk here, this is an immediate signal of condescension. I don't like you. I think you're dumb. Or, Matt, that's not really the core issue here. You know, what we're trying to do is something else. This is a fake smile and it's visceral. Like, do you guys feel it? Like, I'm so happy that we're hanging out. You're like, no, you're not. You hate me. Like, you don't even have to say anything. Instead, you need to either turn it off or turn it on. Fake. I'm so happy to be here. No, you're not. I can tell. I'm so happy to be here. I actually have no emotional difference right now between the two. I'm just committed to the bit, right? I'm so happy to be here. And if you can't be happy in the moment, then think about something that makes you happy and plaster that on your face instead. But be really careful with the feelings of condescension coming out on your face. Next, project calm certainty. People trust leaders who seem unshakable. I find certainty to be contagious. Even if you're still figuring things out behind the scenes, be the duck gliding above the water, even though underneath you are paddling like a crazy motherfucker. Now, this is very unpopular for the internet, but I'm just going to tell you the truth. There is no crying in business. Do not cry in meetings when things are going sideways. Do not believe the influencers that tell you that that's okay. Do not show weakness. From an emotional deregulation standpoint, it is not okay to cry. Now, if somebody dies, if you hurt yourself, perfectly fine. You know, if you have something else in your life that just hurts in that moment, okay, of course. But you do not cry because you are frustrated like a small child at your inability to communicate properly in work settings. You allow somebody else to cry. You pass them the tissue. You say, hey, no problem, take your time. But that's not you, because that is not a 1% move ever. Every single leader that I have seen cry in business is not a leader for very long. Business does not allow for crying. You can hate me on the internet for this, but your bank account will love me. Next, name the elephant. Call out the obvious thing when no one wants to. So if you're sitting in a meeting, like I often am, and everybody's sort of talking around the issue, right? There's this big, hairy elephant in the middle of your meeting room. I want you to try out saying it. Guys, are we not hitting our sales numbers because our product isn't good enough yet? That's phase one. We're saying it as a question. We also use the word guys as an opener. It's like, I'm not saying it. It's a question. Guys means it's a question we all have, isn't it? If you have a stronger frame and more authority, you can say, we're not hitting our numbers because our product isn't good enough yet. Now, I did a couple really subtle cues there. I look to the side. I put up my shoulders. I do a little, all of that is a stage 2. And if you want the highest frame, you would say, we are not hitting our numbers because our product is not good enough yet. Straight to frame, serious, no side. Anytime you lift up, side, smirk, all of that, warmth cue as opposed to competence cue. Now, leaders earn respect by voicing uncomfortable truths. It breaks tension and actually makes people believe in you more than anyone else in the room. You should really try it in a room where everybody else is doing the PC thing. If you can find that there is a truth that nobody is talking about, and especially if the truth maybe is on you, that's the ultimate. You know what I think the real problem is, guys? I think I made the wrong call on this. We should have done this. We did this instead. So I'm going to have this outcome. I'm going to take my burden of this. What else should we have done differently? If you are going to do this one, you better be right. And 2, you need to find your ally who already wants you to say the quiet part out loud, but maybe is scared to do it or really needs somebody else to do it. This is also where power dynamics come in. So you're going to need to understand who your allies are ahead of time. Often in meetings, this means that you talk about the meeting before the meeting to game plan. Never feel bad at thinking that top 1% communicators are born with it. That's not true. We prep. The way that you get to the top 1% is you prep more than the other 99% do. And finally, end with a command. Always finish with a clear action. Here's what happens next. By Friday, I want us to decide this. Why? Influence without direction, just noise. CEOs do not leave conversations open-ended. They move people to act. A little extra add-on for you guys. Ask dangerous questions. Lots of people ask safe questions. How's everyone feeling about this? How was your weekend? Instead, get a little sharper. What's the one risk that could kill this deal? Because real leaders don't just talk, they provoke thought. Questions like this make people take you seriously because they can tell you want the truths, not just to dodge. Sometimes the most authoritative thing you can do is say, I don't know, but I think we can find the answer to this question. And if we do, we will find the answer to everything. That is a hard question. Also, if you don't know if you are competent or warm leaning, let me give you a little piece of homework. Let's say you can't tell if you're going to become a top 1%er because you don't know what you need to lean into more. Go to your email. I learned this from Vanessa. See how many warm versus cold indicators you have. What does that mean? In an email, look at the words. Warm words are words that trigger oxytocin, the happiness drug. So that's like cheers, collaborate, learn, emojis, thank yous, exclamation points, smiley faces. Competent words are words like achieve, mastery, results, outcomes, data, charts, graphs. The truth is that best leaders have both. They use warmth and competence, and they use them like a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. But almost every person I've ever met has one side more dialed than the other. If you guys haven't noticed, I am high on competence. I actually am pretty low on warmth. I get serious, and when I'm serious about things, I have a very serious face. And so I kind of am thinking about things. I'm not smiling so much. I need to work on my warmth cues because people could be intimidated by me or scared of me, which I've heard. And so every single one of us is going to be somewhere on this spectrum. The top 1% is both aware and then they prepare.
If you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind, but go all the way. It could mean not eating for 3 or 4 days. It could mean freezing on a park bench. It could mean jail. It could mean derision. It could mean mockery and isolation. Isolation is the gift. All the others are a test of your endurance, of how much you really want to do it. And you'll do it despite rejection and the worst odds, and it will be better than anything else you can imagine. If you're going to try, go all the way. There is no other feeling like that. You will be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. Do it, do it, do it, all the way. You will ride life straight to perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is. If I wanted to become a millionaire in 2025, I'd do these 7 things. This is my step-by-step guide. Or you could literally just do the opposite of all these, and it's basically a guaranteed way to stay poor. Number 1, reps before results. I loved this quote. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. This was Bruce Lee, kind of the GOAT. Winning looks like luck from the outside, but when you zoom in, it's a numbers game. First you do reps, then you suck, then you improve, then you win, then you repeat, or you find a harder game. Most people never get past the reps stage. They hit a little bit of resistance and then they absolutely fold. That is why you do not have the life that you want right now. When I first started getting on the internet, people thought it was bizarre that I had so many businesses by then. Well, I had been buying businesses and investing for 15 years. So of course I had a little head start. The first time that I raised my very first fund, I had to sell something like 150 investors in one-on-one meetings before I got my first big check. That led to a business that eventually did $1 billion in assets under management at First Trust. But that first year was miserable. And so you have to realize that more reps equals more learning. More learning equals better decisions equal better wins. I sort of think about it like a game of dominoes where you can basically see how to make one fall in front of the other by having one that is stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger because momentum compounds. So every industry has outliers, but if you dig deeper, they almost always fall into 2 categories. They are in fact statistical anomalies. You aren't one of them. They weren't actually lucky. Their first try was their 50th rep in disguise. Nobody actually hits it big on their first try. Like a lot of people I know go back to Mark Zuckerberg and think, well, he actually tinkered on countless projects before he built Facebook. Or you see a writer that goes viral all the time. Well, they probably wrote for 10 years in obscurity. You know, Ray Kroc said it best. Luck is a dividend on sweat. The more you sweat, the luckier you get. And I found this to be true again and again in life. There's really no such thing as an overnight success. And if you realize this, then the question is really, how do you stack your game so that you have a higher likelihood of winning? I think a lot of people don't know how to apply a rule like this. So the way that I do is I set rep goals, not outcome goals. So what does that mean? That means you stop judging your early results because the first 20 reps are going to be atrocious, embarrassing to watch. And you think like an athlete. So athletes think about, if I want to hit this outcome, they actually don't set the outcome as the goal. They set their actions. So let's say you want to lose 20 pounds or you want to grow your business at $2 million in revenue. Well, if you want to lose 20 pounds, what do? You say, I need to go to the gym 5 days a week. I need to walk 10,000 hours every day. I shouldn't eat processed foods, and I'm not going to drink. I'm going to do that for 30 days, then 60 days, then 90 days. I'm going to see where I'm at. In business, it's the same thing. I want to hit $1 million in revenue. Right now, I'm only at $100,000. What are the 5 tasks that I can do that I think will increase my likelihood of success? That's it. And if you can do that continuously over time, you are much more likely to become a millionaire. Number 2, the flake tax. Most people think success comes from big moves, like a genius idea, perfect opportunity, lucky break. But actually, it comes from this one simple formula. Say you'll do something, actually do it, repeat. That's it. It sounds obvious, but here's the problem. Most people don't do it. You overcommit. You underdeliver. You spend your career making excuses. And over time, that comes as a cost. Your most important promise is a promise you make to yourself. Now, the reason why this works like compound interest is every time you follow through, you actually earn credibility points with yourself. Every time you flake, you lose them. Then you think, it doesn't really matter if I keep promises to myself. And at first, you don't notice. No one notices, but over time, this creates an exponential gap. A good example would be, I had an employee. super smart. I've often found the smarter you are, the more often you can make excuses for yourself. And he's what I call a flake. Makes promises, misses deadlines, explains why a lot, super verbose, and stagnates. Whereas the type of person you want to be is an executor. So 2 types of people. I had one of these. They're called a flake. You make promises, you miss deadlines, you explain why verbosely. That means you stagnate. As opposed to an executor, which means you make promises and you keep them. You earn trust, you get more opportunities. The results, flakes have what's called linear progress. They kind of go side to side like this. They're always having to start over. They never really break out to the next level. Executors have compounding trust, which means the things they do get easier with time, and they keep getting more opportunities because these things get easier with time. The guy who delivers consistently will have more money in his bank account by the end. That's just the end of it. Doing the thing is the fastest way to stand out because most people don't. So keep your promise to yourself and watch how you start to keep promises to other people. In 90% of businesses, they are built either to just survive or to thrive. We ran 5,000 business owners through our model to figure out, could we predict those that will thrive or survive? The answer is this quiz. We call it the Empire Builder Index. It's completely free for you. It's about 15 questions, and it will tell you if your business is set up for you to not only win, but maybe one day sell it. We score and rank you from A to F, and then tell you the things that you need to change inside of your business in order for that business to be more fun to run and potentially more fun for somebody else to take over, and thus you to become more profitable. If you want this free quiz, you can click the link in the show description and ask about the Empire Builders Index. You'll get it delivered right to you. It's free. It takes about 90 seconds, maybe a couple minutes at most to fill out. And hopefully at the end, you will get an incredible score. But if you don't get an incredible score, you're also welcome to reach out to my team. We have workshops, we have communities, we have just about everything builders need to grow. We're happy to help you if we can. Number 3, a very controversial one by one of my favorite authors of all time. His name was Bukowski, Charles Bukowski. It actually, he says it multiple ways, but one of my favorite poems of his is about being a writer. And it's so good, I want to read it to you. He says, if you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind, but go all the way. It could mean not eating for 3 or 4 days. It could mean freezing on a park bench. It could mean jail. It could mean derision. It could mean mockery and isolation. Isolation is the gift. All the others are a test of your endurance, of how much you really want to do it. And you'll do it despite rejection and the worst odds, and it will be better than anything else you can imagine. If you're going to try, go all the way. There is no other feeling like that. You will be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. Do it, do it, do it, all the way. You will ride life straight to perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is. What does this mean? It means when you say you are going to do a thing, that's one thing. But if you are going to say it, do it. Do not just try. Bukowski is obsessed with this idea of removing the word try from your vocabulary. And he would say, not to try either for Cadillac's creation or immortality. You wait, and if nothing happens, you wait some more. It's like a bug high on the wall. You wait for it to come to you. When it gets close enough, you reach out, slap it, and kill it. Or if you like its looks, you make a pet out of it. And I think those encompass the idea that you should paste on your forehead, which is writing about writer's block is better than not writing at all. That you find what you love and let it kill you. That's his line. And we are here to laugh at the odds and live our lives so well that death will tremble to take us. Remove try from your vocabulary.
By the way, if you're building a business right now and you're stuck or you want to break out to the next level, maybe you're not where you want to be today. Believe me, I've been there many, many times. I want you to know I got you. We help thousands of business owners a year figure out how to scale to the next level. One of my favorite mentors said, every level you have, there's just a higher level and a higher devil. And so if you've been in business for a while and you're doing 6, 7, or 8 figures, there's probably one thing standing in the way of your next level. That's why we host growth and scale workshops 4 times a year throughout the year in Austin, in Miami, in San Diego, and you may be a fit to come to one of them. If it sounds interesting to you to get help on how to scale your business to the next level, you can reach out to my team at the link in the show notes. We believe in you builders, but we also believe that it's a lonely road and you can't do it by yourself.
Number 4, be a fixer, not a freeloader. So There's a dividing line between two types of people in today's world. At my company, we call these fixers and freeloaders, and they're different than flakes and executors. The leaky ship analogy basically is this. You're on a boat in the middle of the ocean. Suddenly a hole appears, water pours in. What happens next? Well, you have a bunch of people who say, I'm so proud of our boat. The hole just gives it character. Guys, let's not be negative. Don't worry about the hole. Are you going to fix it? Technically, it's not a hole. It's a special port. If there's a hole there, it's there for a reason. What? Like you're an expert at shipbuilding? Everyone, let's just mind our own business. Or I like it with a hole even better. And this always makes me chuckle because while it's ridiculous that we would think of drowning in a boat while you have one guy trying to patch it and everyone else saying things that don't matter, it's very true. And it's an example of what's happening in society and kind of scary how accurate it is in multiple different ways. The freeloaders, they just kind of react. They tell you all their feelings about it. While the freeloaders are not searching for how to fix it, they're searching for ways to feel better about it. They discuss, they theorize, they wait. You guys have met somebody like this, haven't you? You're like, you've brought me that same problem, Diane, about you and your husband for 15 years. Have you tried therapy? Have you talked to them in person? Have you sat down? Have you looked yourself in the mirror and tried to be better? Is there anything we want to do here? Or do we just want to still talk about the issue for 72 years later? Whereas fixers are a totally different breed. They see a problem and they just end up fixing it. And you know what a wild part is? Some weird thing is happening in our culture today where we think that if we fix things and somebody doesn't pay us for it, that's like, ugh, really? Like I'm working at this company and I shouldn't have to do this thing that's not my job. That's a terrible way to stay poor forever. You also don't want that in your culture of your company. I was at my friend Andy Frisella's company. And he has a saying, which is how you do anything is how you do everything. And I remember the moment that I realized how deep his culture was, is that I was in the bathroom at his beautiful 100,000 square foot headquarters in St. Louis, Missouri. I was fixing my makeup or something in the bathroom, and this woman comes out of the stall and she grabs the, soap and water and starts washing her hands. And then when she's done, she grabs a paper towel and she wipes the countertop and the sink and then throws it away. And I thought that was nice, like a little touch above and beyond. I don't do that every time I wash my hands. And then another woman came in. She does the same thing. She washes her hands, she grabs the paper towel, she cleans the countertop, she cleans the sink. And I pause for a second. And I do the inappropriate thing that I do because I just can't be quiet ever. And I'm like, what the are you doing? Why are you washing that countertop and the thing? Like, is that something that you do here? And she just looks at me with this look of disdain and says, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? And so I march out of the bathroom immediately and go to my friend DJ who works at the company. And I'm like, who was that? Was that like your new CEO, your head of marketing, your COO? And he was like, oh no, that's Sally. She's on the sales team. She's kind of junior, she's new, but I think she's going to work out here. And I realized how deep their culture was because even his employees were repeating it back. That is the perfect example of a fixer. And humans like that, they get to architect the entire world as opposed to be a meme where you're wishing and hoping that somebody else will fix things. The truth of the matter is the world is always going to be full of leaks, and that's actually kind of our opportunity. Okay, number 5 is climbing the NPC ladder to main character energy. So I like to ask people, where are you on the NPC ladder? See, first there are NPCs. Right? These are in video games, non-player characters. They exist to create the illusion of a world alive. Like, they populate the towns, they kind of repeat that scripted dialogue and react in super predictable ways. They don't actually play the game. They're like a glorified chair, right? The shopkeeper who says, welcome, traveler, welcome, traveler, welcome, traveler. The blacksmith who does the same thing. The idea is they don't connect the dots, they're not important, and generally speaking, they're just wandering around. Then there are the PCs, the player characters. They're the ones that make things happen, the ones with all of the control, the ones who are actually debating whether not somebody should fight dragon, but like, let's go fix the village and kill the dragon. PCs understand something that most people don't, which is no one's coming to save you or pick you up. And the world defaults to people who step up. And so I think about the NPC ladder as this. Low end, not my problem. Nobody told me to do anything. Someone should fix this. If nobody steps up, I guess I will. I'll handle it. So the idea in business is you probably right now in your business have people who say these things to you. This tells you how you should pay them. At the low end of the scale, you have minimum wage labor, which is what I consider bottom rung. And at the high end of the ladder, you have top rung, or what I would consider C-suite, or people who are on a path for growth. Bottom rung employees, minimum wage employees, say things like, I just work here. I don't know, not my job. Second rung, they say, ooh, nobody told me to do that. So it's not like I won't do it, but nobody told me. You have to tell me to do something. They're like a human motion detector. Only take action when directed and somebody is moving in front of them. Third rung is somebody that says, someone should really fix this. It's like an armchair CEO, right? They're diagnosing project problems. They're telling you what's wrong, but they don't actually fix it. Then the next rung is, well, if nobody else steps up, I guess I will. I think about this as the lazy fixer. This is like, well, I guess I'm doing this again. Well, I'm always working late instead of the other guy. And then you got the top tier, the PCs, who say, I'll handle it. They see the problem, they take action. The idea is, in your business, I want you to catalog every single person along those lines. And then I want you to communicate this with your team. I get on our Monday morning meeting and I say, hey, by the way, guys, if you say these sorts of lines, you get paid this sort of level. If you say these sorts of lines, you'll get paid that sort of level. You decide, do you want to be a main character? Do you want to be part of the show? Neither are wrong, but you got to decide, and they pay different.
I built something for you builders. If you are building a business right now, I think this is the playbook for scaling businesses. We call it our contrarian operating system. It's how I manage all of our businesses to both grow really simply, but consistently. And it's free for you. If you want it, just click the link in the show description and try out the operating system. I really think, you guys, if you want to have a business, not a job, you have to have a system and a process and not a hope and a prayer. If this is useful for you all as well, you can talk to my team. We have tons of resources for builders. I am here to make sure you succeed.
Number 6, action before opportunity. Most people are allergic to this concept. They wait for the perfect role, the dream project, the right time, and they convince themselves that when the time comes, they're going to take action. But your bank account is a direct reflection of how fast you move and how many risks you take. So I want you to think action first, then opportunity follows. In your business, this is how I think about it. You take action even when you don't know what to do, which increases your trust and belief in your ability to move, which actually creates more opportunity for you, which gives you more actions to take. This is the virtuous cycle that I want you to follow. And how do you do this in practice? I'd ask yourself today, what is my typical timeline for one activity that's really important for my business or life? That might be something like, hey, I'll get to that by the end of the day today. Every time you want to give a deadline that's like end of day today, tomorrow, next week, try doing it in 1 hour. Try doing it in 20 minutes. Try materially changing the trajectory of your life by compressing timelines, because people who compress timelines, they win. And the last one is number 7. Your economic superpower is I do. That leads to graphs like this, which show you that over time, if you are never married, and if you were married and never divorced, there is a delta of somewhere between $300,000 to $1 million in net worth, which is kind of crazy. Now, I'm not telling you to go out there and marry just about anybody you find, but what I will tell you is put your priority of partnership very high. One, because it's cool. I'm married, I could tell you. It's actually pretty cool. It's hard at times, but nowhere near as hard, I think, as being single. Being single is really hard, actually. But you know what's cool? When you find your person, you are going to have to compromise. You're going to have to take action. You're going to have to trust. You're going to have to be a better person. They're going to be a mirror and reflection of all the things you hate about yourself constantly. But it turns out one of the fastest ways to wealth is finding another human who can tolerate you for the long term. And so in a world in which people tell you that marriage doesn't matter, I'm going to say the opposite. In fact, when I do business deals, I like to see people that can have a long-term partner, because at least that guy can tolerate them. All right, 7 things I would do if I wanted to be a millionaire in 2025. One kind of crazy one here at the end, all the way to a bunch you would be crazy not to listen to.
Hey crew, this is so cool. The podcast is growing like crazy, and it's only actually because of one thing, you. I don't know if you know this, but the only way the Big Deal Pod grows is when you share it with somebody else. We don't do ads, we don't do pay for play, we don't go on other people's podcasts and talk about it. So if you think there was something helpful here, if we made you money, we made you think about your business or life differently, the most beautiful thing you can do for me is share it. And the most beautiful thing you can do for someone that you care about is to share it with them, help them grow alongside you. So please share the pod. That's how we grow. And also tag me on anything you share. I love resharing other builders across Instagram, Twitter, and all other platforms. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're super important to me.